Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2CTV, and we come to you guys with some breaking news from the heart of Westminster and the House of Commons. The Tory government is in turmoil once again over not just internal issues, but of course the border crisis and the Rwanda plan. We have had a number of resignations already from the government, including the key figure from the grassroots who was the deputy chairman until now, Lee Anderson, alongside his colleague Brandon Clark-Smith as well. We're going to talk about everything we know so far, because this is an ongoing situation as we come to you guys, because over the next few minutes we're going to find out more about what's happening inside the House of Commons. We've just heard, apart from the resignations, this is all happening because of tonight's vote on the Rwanda plan, that the amendments have been rejected by the rest of MPs in Parliament. So it's not looking good for Rishi Sunak and his cabinet. It's also not looking good for the Conservative Tory MPs, the rebels. It's kind of looking good for the left-wing MPs like the Labour Party and the Lib Dems. So we're going to explore exactly what's been going on. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Stay with us. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Okay, Lee Anderson has now officially resigned alongside Brandon Clark-Smith as the deputy chairman of the Tory party and vice chairman and all that. We also just heard, as we obviously discovered, about the resignation. The reason resignations happened was because Lee and Brandon decided to join the rebels against Rishi Sunak's government, and by voting against or voting in favour of the amendments against the Rwanda bill, which meant that the Downing Street and the party chief whip said, you're going to have to go. So they resigned. We also just heard that Bill Cash's amendment, the amendment that we've been talking about recently to help save the Rwanda plan, make it better, that's also been rejected now, but with a sizable Tory rebellion. MPs have rejected an amendment to the Rwanda bill proposed by Sir Bill Cash. The veteran Tory MP put forward an amendment seeking to disapply international law with regards to Rwanda being a safe country. So obviously one of the main problems with the original Rwanda plan was left-wing lawyers and human rights groups said, based on international obligations, Rwanda is not a safe country. So the government been trying to find a way to declare Rwanda as a safe country, right? But obviously ECHR, the UN side, that they've been saying no, it's not. It's really rude, by the way, to Rwanda and their government. But the amendment from Bill Cash was supposed to help the government to basically override international law, to say, if we say safe country, it's safe country. But MPs, the rest of the sycophants and the corrupt idiots in the House of Commons rejected the amendment by 529 votes to 68, the majority of 461, including two tellers. So this is the state of the House of Commons. Although we also had an SNP amendment that has also been rejected just now. MPs also rejected an SNP amendment to the Rwanda bill. This seeks to change the legislation and declare Rwanda as an unsafe country. I'll explain what's going on in a second, but the vote was by 337 to 66, the majority of 271. Let's get this right, guys. We've got one amendment that was supposed to basically tell Parliament to go to the world and international law to say Rwanda is a safe country. The House of Commons rejected that. Then there was another amendment to say Rwanda is an unsafe country. The House of Commons also rejected that. Basically, the House of Commons is drunk and needs to go home, because the votes that you see in Parliament on a regular basis based on amendments and bills and all this stuff is mostly about the politics of it rather than actual morality or legality. It's simply because they say, well, that amendment was put forward by the SNP, let's vote against it. Or that amendment was put forward by the right wing of the Tory party, like Sir Bill Cash, let's vote against it. So basically, right now, the House of Commons tonight, at the same time, rejected both the idea that Rwanda is safe, as well as rejecting the idea that Rwanda is unsafe. I know, mind blown. So absolute insanity. So that's happening right now. We're still waiting for the rest of the votes. Let's find out. I'm going to go towards reading the letters, one letter, joint letter of resignation by both Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark Smith, where right now MPs are voting on a specific part of the government's Rwanda bill. They are giving their verdict on clause 2 of the legislation, which states that Rwanda is a safe country. All right, I know it's all confusing, which makes no sense. They rejected the amendment to say Rwanda is safe and also unsafe, and now they're voting on the actual bill to say Rwanda is safe. This is the state of the country. Let's go to the letter we have, the joint letter from both Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark Smith. Dear Prime Minister, when we were elected in 2019, we promised the public that we would get Brexit done and take back control. One of the key issues for the public was our sovereignty and making sure our parliament and our courts would have supremacy over distant and unaccountable ones abroad. The Conservative government has taken unprecedented steps to make sure that this is the case. Globally, we see the huge impact of migration, both legal and illegal. And that is why it has been so important to bring in measures to bring these numbers down. Our returns policy and working together with partners such as Albania is but one example of how this government has taken up the challenge alongside our work against criminal networks. The Rwanda plan represents a clear deterrent, and it is noteworthy the other countries are now looking at following our lead. So, okay, I really appreciate people like Lee Anderson, Brandon, but there is a massive problem right now in the political culture in Westminster. I understand there's basic procedures, due diligence, and bureaucracy. I fully understand that. On a legal level, when it comes to legislations, bills in Parliament, but can we, for the love of Jesus and Moses and Muhammad and Abraham and Noah and all of them, stop this nonsense? Brandon and Lee, I know both of them. They're good MPs. They're down to earth. They're normal people. They are humble. They're ordinary people, working class. Why did they have to write this letter in such a carefully worded, boring, cautious, robotic, clinical way? The first 2 paragraphs are such a classic Tory language. Oh, we just have to make sure that the media and the press and the hacks and the voters will see the first 2 paragraphs to know that we really care about the border crisis and the Rwanda. Just shut up. Be honest. Write 3 paragraphs in the letter saying, we want to take back control. You didn't help us. We have a new plan. You rejected our plans. We're resigning. Just be honest. If you are down to earth, if you are working class, we've seen Lee Anderson on GB News. He has a show. He talks like a normal person, apparently. And, goes to the pub. Brandon, same thing. Good guys. Why do they have to speak like robots? This is completely unnecessary behavior that we have in Parliament. Let's continue this stupid letter. Anyway, I'm in favor of the resignation. I'm just criticizing the roboticness of the political class. The United Kingdom, they say, is a welcoming country, and we can be very proud of our record taking in refugees and those who wish to contribute to society and make it their home. Indeed, many of those who have done so would be, okay, blah, 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 blah. That paragraph, boring. Next one. Next paragraph is, while we have taken steps to tackle those important issues, we have done so. We're being bound by a Blair-era legal framework, blah, blah, blah. Next paragraph. Prime Minister, you pledged to do, there we go. Now they're getting direct. Prime Minister, you pledge to do whatever it takes to stop the boats. You have been clear and resolute over the Rwanda plan, and you have stated that you will not let a foreign court to block these flights. You have our 100% support and the support of our constituents. I'm going to stay cool. I'm going to stay calm. Don't worry. All right. Anyway, let's go. Next paragraph. Labour has no plan. Oh, there we go. Of course, they have to get party political and attack the Labour Party. Yeah, that's normal. Get used to it. Then they criticise the European Union, blah, blah, blah. Then they say, in the past, we have signed amendments, voted for 10-minute rule bills, and spoken on various occasions in the media to argue that safeguards need to be put in place to make sure our legislation is watertight. It is therefore important in terms of credibility that we are consistent with this. See, that's good. Stay on topic. Stay focused, direct, robust, straight talking. Just like how you guys are when you go to a pub. Lee Anderson and Brandon. Continue. We have already had 2 pieces of legislation, there we go, thwarted by a system that does not work in favour of the British people. It is for this reason that we have supported the amendments to the Rwanda bill. This is not because we are against the legislation, but because, like everybody else, we want it to work. This task is not an easy one, and we appreciate the fine balance that must be struck. As two people who have been on very different political journeys, one as a person who followed the same path many voters did for the first time at the last general election, and another who has been a lifelong Conservative Party supporter, it has been a huge honour for both of us to serve as deputy chairman of the party. CCHQ has an excellent team, and the chairman is doing a tremendous job in making sure we are in good shape to campaign for a historic fifth term. I really can't give a straight. Why? I know why. They're scared of the whips and CCHQ deselecting them as candidates. Man up, guys, man up. Anyway, our support for the party and this government remains as strong as ever. Please don't kill us. That's basically what it means. Anyway, that's boring. You can read it, pause the video, read the rest. In the final paragraph, we commend your work on illegal migration so far and your commitment to implementing the will of the British people. The last thing either of us wants to do is to distract from this. We both look forward to making this legislation work to carry out the will of the British people and to taking Labour and winning the next general election. I'm done with this. I'm walking away. Okay. I really like Lee Anderson. He's a good guy, good friend, good down-to-earth MP. Usually, in touch with society, like Brandon, both of them. Now they are Tory MPs, so they speak like robots. They get distracted, sidetracked on a very basic letter. And they speak like, it's just complete nonsensical. Absolute nonsense. Talk like a normal person. You're not David Cameron or George Osborne, one of those clinical, professional, slick politicians. Be normal. Learn from Javier Milei. I mean, you don't have to go full on Javier Milei, but a little bit. Grow some balls. Anyway, let's go. We got UK Pride. Let's go to the live chat quickly and then find out what the vote is happening, the latest update. Don't vote Labour. They are already covering up sexual assaults by migrants on our children. Get them out. And don't vote Labour. Let's find out what is going on, the latest update on this idiotic debate and vote in the House of Commons. All right, so we have an upcoming amendment vote. This is Robert Jenrick's amendment. So we had the Bill Cash amendment being rejected. That was about saying Rwanda is a safe country. Rejected. Then they also rejected the SNP amendment, which said Rwanda is an unsafe country. I know. Safe and unsafe, rejected both. Stupid. That's just, it's basic because of internal politics. It's tribal politics because the SNP introduced it. Basically, when you read an amendment, ignore the title of the amendment because the intent is not really the same as the outcome of the amendment if it's implemented. We got the Robert Jenrick amendment coming up next now, and the MPs are now voting on that amendment to the Rwanda bill. Robert Jenrick was the former immigration minister who also resigned alongside Suella Braverman as Home Sec. This amendment actually seeks to limit the ability for individuals to make claims against their deportations. So it's about obviously the appeals and the left-wing lawyers and the judges obviously trying to stop the Rwanda flights, right? So we are waiting for the result of that vote to find out exactly what's going on. Let me just see exactly what else we have missed so far. Yeah, we're just waiting for that to actually happen. Let's quickly go get your reaction. By the way, in the meantime, things are kicking off in the Middle East. Iran has attacked Pakistan because they believe they found headquarters of the enemy, the infidels. So the Iranian regime are looking for conflict. We know that, but we'll talk about that later on a different live stream. I just want to give you guys the update. All right. Let's find out what's going on. There's a discussion about Islam for some reason. Why aren't we revolting? Well, because we have parliamentary democracy. It's up to the people. If the people in this country continue to vote for the same parties and same politicians, it's up to them. That's the issue. You need to start voting for different people, different parties, or change the leadership of the parties. People don't get involved with parties anymore. The membership of the parties are going down, all of them. From Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Reform, Green, SNP, party membership is down. So people are not really involved anymore anyway to even change party leaders. And when it comes to general elections, they continue to vote the same way. So it's democracy. It is democracy. We have to change the people, the mindset of the people in the country. The system is fine. Well, it's not fine, but system is definitely not fine. But in terms of the electorate, the electoral system can be reformed, but it's still working. We just have to get people to vote the right way. Cheers from Portugal, Britain's first ally. Yeah, let's not forget that. The world's oldest alliance. No, it's not. It's not the world's oldest alliance. Do not. The world's oldest alliance was between the Persians and the Jews. Yeah. But yeah, the world's longest, oldest alliance post, of course, especially medieval times and before that, when it comes to post-ancient empire days. Anyway, let's go back. Why were we getting distracted? We're waiting for the result, by the way, for the Robert Jenrick amendment to find out exactly what's going on. The Tory party, who continue to ruin the country, and the Conservatives somehow are still blaming the Labour Party on the problems, including the border crisis. I have no idea how this narrative and rhetoric is working. It's fascinating. It's been 13 years since they've been in government. They're still blaming the Labour Party. Sick and tired. Francis says that every single one of the clowns, aka MPs, need voting out. Not one of them are good enough. Out for themselves, not for the votes. Not only, so a lot of them are for themselves, the rest of them fall into the same trap. And as I just said, I showed you guys the letter of resignation from Lee Anderson and Brandon Clark-Smith, right? I know both of them. Nice people, right? Down to earth, working class. Even the language of that letter proves that even when these good guys get into this bubble, Westminster bubble, something changes them. It's like a virus. They become robotic. They become overly cautious. They write letters like they're writing letters to the United Nations or something. Just speak like a normal human. Resign and say why you resign. Get out. Have some sort of dignity. It's so embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. These are the good ones, apparently. The system is messed up. Why am I so angry? I'm not even surprised about any of this. Unnecessarily energetic Maya tonight. Obviously, we are expecting the votes. I'm not surprised about the result of the vote so far, the amendment. I'm not surprised about the resignation necessarily. And of course, I'm not... there we go, we have another one. We have another resignation. Jane Stevenson, who was Kemi Badenoch's PPS. She has also resigned. Actually, she's not. She has not resigned. She has been sacked. Oh, wow. So we had 2 resignations and 1 sacking. In case you don't know who this person is, I would not be surprised because nobody knows who she is. I'm going to put a picture on the screen for you guys to give you guys the more details about Jane Stevenson. She is, as I said, Jane Stevenson, Wolverhampton North East, and she was Kemi Badenoch's PPS. She didn't have a chance to resign. She was sacked by Rishi Sunak for voting for the amendment. Right, absolute insanity. Tower Block Tracy says Lee Anderson normal, 2K a show for GB News BF. Well, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, normal is not the right word. I agree with that comment. I will correct my statement. I'm just saying that people like Lee Anderson and the others, they claim that they're working class. They claim that they're down to earth, right? They claim to be, going with humility. And this is the sort of letter day, right? I'm not defending Rishi Sunak. I'm attacking all of them. I'm attacking the working class Tories, the upper class, middle class Tories, the socialist Labour, centrist Labour, globalist. They're all of them. They're all wrong. Everyone's wrong at this point. There is no dignity or principle right now in the House of Commons from mainstream leadership politicians. The Labour Party lure the illegals in the first place, though, with bribes for foreign election interference. It is therefore. This is exactly why. This is a perfect comment. Why we will never be able to fix any of our problems in this country. So obviously, logically, objectively, this comment is correct, right? In the 2000s, we saw what the Labour Party did. That was a whole different problem when they opened the doors to migration. It's like saying Germany in 1920s they made decisions, and then in 1930s when they made the same decisions, or different government, different regime made the same messed up decision. People say, oh no, blame the previous regime. Or anything else. The NHS policies. The Labour Party messed up the NHS on different levels. The Tory Party has also messed up the NHS. Can the Tory Party go and blame the Labour Party? No. The problem that we're currently facing with immigration is on a whole different level than what Labour Party did. So if it makes you feel better, then fine, say it. Say, so it is their fault. So it is the Labour Party's fault. If it makes you feel better for now, 10 minutes, like, oh, I can sit at home and be like, yeah, you guys are criticising my Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, but it's Labour started this. Tories had 13 years to stop it. Not only did they didn't stop it, they made it worse. Definitely made it worse. The problems that we're currently facing, the small boats, the number of student visas increasing, and their relatives, everything else. Absolute insanity. And you're still blaming the Labour Party. Whatever the Labour Party did, you have 13 years to fix it. But people are going to get tribal. The Tories are going to support the Tories. The Labour idiots are going to support the Labour idiots. The Lib Dems are probably getting high on weed or whatever they do. Absolute insanity. Stop the tribal nonsense. Stop blaming the party if you are from a different party. Everybody needs to take responsibility, including us, the voters, because we keep voting the same way. We continue to vote the same direction of the parties. And those who say, what do? We don't really have any options. Those who want to make change in terms of political parties, you have to get involved with party politics. For those of you who can, obviously I want to use my media hat, but those who care about party politics, get involved with existing parties or create parties. Change, vote for new leaders instead of just sitting at home. Although right now, I mean, while I said the Labour government, whatever they did is done, the Tories have to change it. Let's also criticise the current shadow cabinet for also not really coming up with any workable solution. That the only solution Keir Starmer has given out is, well, let's just fast track the asylum applications, the backlogs, and then go after the people smugglers. So basically, the Labour government want to declare a war on people smugglers, just like how every successive government in the West for the past 100 years declared a war on drugs. How did the war on drugs go? Do you think the war on people smugglers is going to be more successful than the war on drugs? Of course not. It's a black market, you idiots. So Keir Starmer, I have no idea what he's talking about. Why he pretends that he has a plan. Paul says, we haven't forgotten that Keir Starmer is an executive member of the Fabian Society's Marxist organization, as well as to clarify, Fabian Society is definitely not Marxist. They are globalists. Said that they are pro-centralization globalists, which I was going to say is worse than Marxist. It's not worse than Marxism, but it's on a whole different level of corruption. Well, and terrible ideology. But just because, by the way, because a lot of people get angry. I made a video earlier about WF and Davos. When people get angry when they see big government or tyranny or centralization, they call everything Marxist or communist. It's not. So Fabian Society is basically globalism on steroid. Globalism is not Marxism. There are similarities, but it's definitely not. It's harder to stop globalism as a political ideology compared to communism, because communism has to be led by a figurehead, a father figure, whereas globalism as an ideology is run by faceless entities and corporations, not one leader. So it's much harder to oppose that. Anyway, it became a bit of a shame when the Labour Party became even more centrist or globalist instead of actually, at least during the Corbyn era, you knew where you stood with the Labour Party. You knew if you vote for them, you're going to get communism. But what people like, I actually blame Neil Kinnock first. Neil Kinnock and Tony Blair, and now these guys, and Keir Starmer, they're not really helping the Labour Party either. Helen says, the only decent MP is Andrew Bridgen, a man of principle and a man for the people. We also have Rick Shaw saying, Richard Tice supports Zelensky. I don't, but I would still vote for Reform UK. To be fair, I do think Richard Tice supports the Ukrainian people rather than Zelensky, but I don't know. As far as I know, I believe he just supports the Ukrainian people who are under attack. But that's a whole different discussion. It gets complicated. You don't want to open that door. If you're not resigning other parties with all that's going on, then you're a traitor to Britain. It is a mess though, isn't it? But then you might wonder, you might also say, well, if everybody resigns, who's going to be the next leader? Because you still have the main two parties dominating, technically speaking, the political atmosphere. So you would say, why not just start a new party? Fine. Are we organized enough? Look at all the other alternative parties we've had for such a long time, from UKIP Reform to Britain First to SDP to English Constitution to Heritage, Greens, so many smaller parties, and it helps the egos. Oh yeah, the supporters would like the leader. They're like, oh, I like that leader's face. I like what he says. He says what I think. I'm going to support that party. Urgh. Who cares? That's emotions. Forget about your own emotions. Like, well, David Curtin said this. He's a man of principle. I don't care. You need to win. You need to be organized. You need to have the support. You need to infiltrate the system. Not just stand in the pub and say the same things that your supporters already like. That's an echo chamber. What's the point? Ugh. Danny Kruger, who's been the leader of the rebellion, has tweeted, 70 MPs just voted for Bill Cash's amendment. Strong support for strengthening the safety of the Rwanda bill. The bill will not work in its current form. There is still time to get it right. Unfortunately, Danny, I don't think there is. I have no idea how the main vote is going to go at the end, but it's a lose-lose for both Rishi Sunak's cabinet as well as the Tory backbenchers. The only winners are the Labour Party right now tonight. We have the latest update from Richard Tice. Richard Tice, the leader of Reform UK, has issued an invitation to Brendan Clark-Smith and Lee Anderson to join the Reform Party. It says, I can confirm that Lee and Brendan would both pass our strict vetting process. Okay. Gotta be objective. Some of you support Richard Tice and Reform. Reform UK and Richard Tice made it clear only a couple of months ago. They said, we are not going to be seeking Tory defections. We don't want Tory politicians who've been part of this government, been associated with this government, to join Reform UK. 2 minutes ago, Richard Tice just invited both Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark-Smith to join Reform UK. The problem with politics is, make sure you don't say something that's going to come back and bite you in the backside 2 months later. Good luck to all of them, but, it's not going to work. The Time Prophet says the Rwanda pill will never work. Why can't we just put mines in the English Channel? Like the good old days. Yeah. I mean, no one's tried it yet. That's a joke before people report me to the police again. Wooly says, Reform is dead now, Maya. Yes. Well, in coma, maybe. I don't know. Rickshaw's leaving us. He's defecting. Said, gotta go. Great and informative show, Maya. Thank you very much for joining. I'm just waiting for the result of the last vote before I leave you guys and let you guys go have dinner. Or tea if you're in the north. Barry says, Maya, do you think Lee Anderson will go through the routes to get to the end, to end up joining Reform via the New Conservative? I don't do predictions, but as far as I know Lee, he would never join Reform UK. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. He would not join Reform. And those who say, like, there's a comment saying, I like Lee Anderson. I think he will do well in the Reform. We need to elaborate what that means. Is it because we like him? Is it because he says the right things that we like? Or do you have his track record? I just showed you his letter of resignation. That sounded like David Cameron's teenage intern advisor writing it. Boring and just sidetrack. Stay focused. Write a proper letter. Straightforward. Straight talking. Like how you do in the pub, Lee. I see him in the pub. He's straight talking. Great. Why is it that when these idiots become Westminster bubble politicians and Tories, they become like robots? Why can't they be like Margaret Thatcher? Oh dear. All as I said, Javier Milei, slightly with better haircut. Wooly says, should we vote Labour then? No, don't do that. That's not a good idea. Tories are too globalist and left-wing. Just like the Labour Party, they're also too globalist and left-wing. They don't stand for law and order like the old Tories used to. Yes, exactly. So it's a lose-lose. You can't vote Labour as an alternative because you're voting for the same thing. I'm not going to advocate anybody to vote in any way. So I'm not partisan anymore. I used to be more party political, but I'm not really concerned about party politics and the actual parties. We have bigger problems in the country and in the world to deal with behind the scenes. But for now, yes, we're going to be covering the elections, the next election, and you guys vote however you want to. I will not be telling you what to do. We have had 8. Oh wow, we have so many resignations of the Tory vice chairman, deputy chairmen over the last few years, and there's a whole list, and I think I should do a special video just talking about that because it's completely chaotic. All right, we have another vote. Amendment defeated. Ladies and gentlemen, the last vote of the amendment, obviously. Robert Jenrick's amendment from the technically political right of the Tory party has been rejected by the MPs. Yeah, so vote by 525 votes to 58, majority of 467. Only 58 MPs in the House of Commons rebelled against Rishi Sunak's idiotic bill. It's a bit smaller than the rebellion led by Bill Cash, which was earlier. He got 68 votes, I think, support. But the majority of the rebels were obviously Conservative MPs. Now they're going to be looking at clause 4 of the legislation. Basically, in the words of that incompetent Prime Minister, Theresa May, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Rishi Sunak is losing support of the party, and the backbench Tory MPs have no support in the House of Commons, and the House of Commons has no support of the country. That's a good summary, basically. Anyway, we'll keep it going posted. I think there's a super chat I just missed. Apologies. Leslie Manning, thank you so much for your super sticker support tonight. You know what's going to happen now. They're going to vote on the rest of it, the little votes amendment, and then they're going to vote on the actual bill. It's either going to win or lose. It doesn't really matter. What we're going to focus on in a couple of hours, in a few hours, we're going to come back live. We're going to give you the update, but we're going to talk about what's going on in Germany, because the farmers are still leading the rebellion against the globalist, centralized German federal government. Thank you so much for joining tonight's live stream. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.